today we're joined by an internationally known author and speaker who consults with organizations worldwide on network architecture, web development, and the intersection of technology and society. He works with companies large and small to help them capitalize on the opportunities provided by APIs, microservices, and digital transformation. He has authored numerous papers and books, and his most recent one is Design and Build Great Web APIs, Robust, Reliable, and Resilient. Our guest for today is Mike Amundsen. Hi, Mike. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Kevin. It's great to be here. Hi, David.
G'day, Mike.
All right, so the starting point for most API development projects is to gather requirements from the stakeholders of the API. So, how does creating an API story facilitate the documentation of these requirements?
Starting out with a good story, collecting the feedback. What is it you're trying to do? What are the actions you're taking? What's the data you're working with? What are any rules or processes or tasks you need to perform? Collecting all that stuff together first in a coherent narrative that you can explain to anyone. It doesn't mean it's a technical story. It's really literally a story. Really is the first step to creating those great APIs or great services that are really going to make a difference for your organization.
And encapsulating all of this is obviously the API first approach to developing. Just like you said, we haven't written a line of code yet, right? There's no implementation of the services behind this API.
Sketching out the API interaction gives you a sort of a physical sense. Oh, it's going to look like this. Well, that's too complicated. Let's see if we can reduce the arguments or change the URL or something like that. So we do that. And then the idea of building a prototype is like building a movie set. So now you have very detailed prototype. So you're actually exploring all the details of logging in and errors and all sorts of other things. So prototypes are super important. I really like in the RESTful side using Open API for my prototypes, but there are lots of ways you can do this. And there's a great analogy for prototypes in the garment industry. It's called making a toile or a muslin. Toile is French for a canvas. You make, I've got some expensive gown or suit that I want to wear to, the coming out party of the company. Maybe you're getting listed on the stock exchange. You're going to have a big deal. Well, you don't test out using this expensive gold lame material. You test using cheap materials. And you make sure it fits right and it works all right, and you transfer that pattern into a test. That's what a prototype is. If you're prototyping a car or you're prototyping packaging, sometimes they're super expensive. You want to keep the prototypes cheap and simple. And then once you've explored all those details, then actually building it, you can sort of turn it over to a build crew, and most of the excitement has gone out of it. You still have a lot of ownership in building it and building a great thing, but you've discovered most of the dangerous areas. You want to discover all that before you order lots of girders and cement and dig a big hole somewhere in the middle of the city. That's the importance of this API first and doing all this work before you write code.
And how are microservices tied into APIs for those that are unaware?
But APIs, often you need APIs to solve a customer problem. So APIs often run north to south. So at the north end is the customer request. At the south end is the actual service that's inside the organization. They have a different set of problems. They're going to be a lot more network dependent, as we were talking about earlier. And those APIs need to solve customer problems, not your provider problems, right? So my provider APIs, my microservices are usually generic, like data services, workflow services, some kind of internal intellectual property that I have about the way I manage product management or something like that. That's not the customer's problem. Customer's problem is they need to know how many employees they have or what their sales are today. So often the APIs cross domains. I need a little bit of security. I need a little bit of customer service. I need a little bit of sales. I need a little bit of marketing. That's the request that I need to fulfill. So APIs run north and south. They focus on security and often cross individual domains. Services usually run east and west, and they talk to each other almost in their own internal code, their own object models, their own data models that are not shared by the customer. So making sure that you sort of know the two is super important, because that helps you focus on who the audience is and what their problems really are, and then what your risks really are, because they're different on the inside than they are on the outside.
So, what do you think are the challenges of taking a microservices approach to application design?
Setting up the boundary, deciding what's inside a service and what's not, is a real challenge, and there's no science to it. So, we have this onboarding experience, right? So maybe I want an onboarding service. Well, that talks to lots of other services. Maybe in a bank, I might be talking to credit management, or I need to reach outside and check someone's credit history, and so on and so forth. There's all sorts of little pieces. So one of the big challenges in microservices, people get really tied up in where they're going to draw their boundaries. This is inside the domain, that's outside the domain. And the thing is, no matter how well you do it, the first time you do it, you won't do it correctly. You'll come up with your best guess, your best understanding, and that's really important. And
you'll still get it wrong.
Yes, exactly right, David. You still get it wrong, but that's okay. Because you just build it, and then you work with it, and then you change it over time. So that's, I think, one of the biggest challenges for people who are doing this microservice application design, is they think they need to get it right the first time. And of course, because we're going to be doing constant renewal, we're going to use that STAR method, that cycle of repeat. It's okay. We do the best we can as we understand today, and then build that, and then pay attention.